Dad, it's your 70th birthday. We, your family, have taken this opportunity to revisit your life story and to record just some of the highlights in this presentation.
We are all so grateful and appreciative for everything that you and Nenny do. And even if we can't all be there in person, it is very important to all of us to tell you that.
This is our attempt to thank you, to pay tribute to you, and to recognise and absorb your achievements. We hope it will also help us to live up to the personal qualities and passions that make you such a unique person and amazing husband, father and grandfather.
We love you and Bezrat Hashem, tututu. Look forward to being able to update this story for many years to come. Please excuse any errors. After all, even copyrights expire after 70 years.
Papa's story really begins several years before he was actually born. It leads up to World War II in the late 1930s in Belgium.
Papa's father, Avraham Shmuel Zichrono Livracha, was a diamond merchant who travelled constantly for business. He found himself in Singapore in 1939, suffering from pneumonia, and was instructed by doctors to travel to Australia to benefit from the better air quality. He wrote to Bubby that he would soon return, but Bubby was one of the few prophetic Jews in Europe who saw the darkening clouds and told Avraham Shmuel that she would leave Belgium and join him in Australia.
Divine intervention seemed to play a role in this story. Bubby, little Izzy, and Bubby's sister Lena were lucky to find passage out of Europe on the very last boat allowed to leave Belgium before the war. Papa's grandfather, Zev Leibler, managed to escape to America, but most of Bubby's family died in the Holocaust.
Bubby arrived in Melbourne on June 13th, 1939, and started building a life in Australia together with Avraham Shmuel.
On 26 December 1943, just 4 years after his parents' mad scramble to escape Nazi Europe, Papa was born in Melbourne, Australia.
The first chapter in this story is that of Papa's youth. Papa grew up on those same streets of Caulfield, which many of his grandchildren now call home.
Papa has two brothers, Izzy, who is 9 years older than him, and Alan, who is 3 years younger than him. His father once described Papa as the number one devil of the family.
When Papa was only 8 years old, he ran headfirst through a thick glass door while chasing after Alan. He lost a piece of his scalp in the process, right at the hairline. I guess that was the beginning of the end of Papa's hairline.
Papa went to school at Mount Scopus College and had holidays on the peninsula. When Papa was little, he lived in Caulfield, very close to where I live. But with one big difference, Papa had two dogs. One was called Laddie. I don't think that would have worked out so well with my mum.
According to the stories I've heard, Papa was a very clever boy at school, but wasn't so well behaved. In fact, Papa often tells the story of how he was thrown out of the window of the classroom, and when he was particularly naughty, he even received a smack from the principal.
In those days, Scopus had cadets, like Junior Army. Papa had difficulty following orders, and was apparently the only person ever to be dishonorably discharged from the Scopus cadets. And of course, if any of us ever want more information about how Papa did in primary or secondary school, all of his ancient notes and reports are still stored neatly in clearly marked folders in his study.
Sadly, Papa's father, Avraham Shmuel, passed away at the very young age of 46. Papa was only 13 years old at the time, and just a few short months after his bar mitzvah. So we grew up in a house with 3 boys and one very strong, inspiring, loving mother. For all of us who've grown up with Papa as a fixture in our lives, always available as a source of company and wisdom, it is difficult to fathom how hard it must have been for Bubby and her sons, making their way in a house without a father. We are all so grateful to Hashem that we have Papa, a loving father and grandfather as such an important part of our lives. And Papa, we know how precious that opportunity is to you as well.
Throughout his childhood, Papa was involved in Bnei Akiva as a chanich and later as a madrich and merakez on Shabbatot and at camps.
In fact, it was the Bnei Akiva environment that the spark of romance first flared between Papa and a young lady named Rosanna Weiss, also known today as Nanny. Papa graduated from Mount Scopus in 1961. And notwithstanding his rare attendance, he was dux of the school.
The next chapter in this story is the beginning of Papa's awe-inspiring professional career as a lawyer. That career has inspired the career paths of 2 children and the university studies of the other 2.
Papa's decision to go to Melbourne University to study law reflected his sense of family responsibility and independence. Bubby was involved in running the family diamond business. Izzy was just setting out on his business career and wasn't yet all that established. Law represented a stable and respectable career. At university, Papa did brilliantly and was appointed editor of the Law Review.
In 1966, Papa joined a law firm called Arnold Bloch and Associates, with offices on Queen Street in the city.
Actually, 1966 was a pretty big year. On June the 5th, Papa and Nanny were married, as was said in the surprise celebration for their 30th wedding anniversary. Nanny circled Papa 7 times under the chuppah and has been running rings around him ever since.
In August 1967, Anthony was born. And that, of course, was a very important milestone in Papa's life. Oh my goodness, I guess it was also a very important event in my life.
But Anthony's birth wasn't the only new chapter of Papa's life that began in August 1967. At about the same time, Papa won a Fulbright scholarship to Yale University, and so Nanny and Papa left Australia behind to travel to New Haven, Connecticut, with little baby Anthony. It was a much more difficult journey in those days than it is today, with many more stops along the way. Bubby once told us that someone cried the whole way there, and it wasn't baby Anthony or Papa.
Nanny and Papa lived in a tiny student apartment in New Haven while Papa studied at Yale. Times were tough and they lived on a very limited student budget. Imagine what a culture shock it must have been for them both, living so far away from their close families, enduring the cold and the snow that is winter in New Haven, all while dealing with the shock to the system that every young couple experiences when they have their first baby.
Papa graduated from Yale in 1968 with a Masters of Laws with honours. Papa seriously considered continuing on and becoming an academic, but ultimately he decided he wanted to put his skills into practice. When their time in Yale was finished, Bubby came and collected Anthony and took him back to Australia. And Nanny and Papa, believe it or not, spent a month holidaying in Europe.
And remember, back in those olden days, there were no mobile phones, no text, no WhatsApps, no Find My Friends, and definitely no Kick-Ass group on Facebook.
When Nenny and Papa came back to Australia, Papa thought long and hard about what he wanted to do for his career. He ultimately decided to rejoin Arnold Bloch. In 1969, he was made a partner and the firm was renamed Arnold Bloch Leibler.
In those early days of professional life, Papa travelled far and wide, including to exotic places like Papua New Guinea, where he sat around campfires with the natives and banged the drums in order to set up local companies for clients, hoping that the natives wouldn't want to eat him at the end of the ceremony. Nenny and Anthony missed him a lot in those days, but were comforted by the laughs they had about the strange places he visited. Their favourite was Lake Titicaca, which still makes them giggle more than 40 years later.
In 1972, Nenny and Papa gave Anthony a baby sister, Simon. In those days, Nenny and Papa lived at 319 Glenarva Road. Until, in 1974, they bought a house in Ilton Street for $42,000, which is where their home has been ever since.
With only 2 children, Nenny and Papa were open to adventure, and family holidays ranged from Hawaii with Izzy and Naomi's family to a daring boat ride to Tasmania with the Gershovs and Gilberts. They lost Simon in Hawaii for a little while, but made up for it in Tasmania, where, according to family legend, Papa spent all night every night wheeling her around in a pram, begging her to go to sleep. And let's not forget Surfers Paradise, the good old days in the Luca Hotel and that penthouse in the President Hotel owned by one of Papa's clients, where someone broke the toilet seat, and it wasn't Nenny or Anthony.
In 1977, Ilan was born, very premature and very little, and as the story goes, very preoccupied with twisted underwear. But the sneaking suspicion within the family is that while Papa has never displayed favoritism, he has always had a special soft spot for Alana.
In 1979, Jeremy's arrival made the family complete.
Nenny and Papa spent those years together, raising their children, nurturing relationships with the clients of the firm. Those friendships that were created in the glow of Nenny's charm as a hostess helped to affirm the loyalty of those clients, and were a unique complement to Papa's skills as a lawyer and an advisor.
1980 was a big year in Papa's life and the life of his family. Anthony had his bar mitzvah. Ilana and Jeremy were still babies.
Papa has already cemented a position as one of Australia's leading tax and takeover lawyers. The list of clients who simply wouldn't make a move without consulting Papa read like a who's who of Australia's leading entrepreneurs and business people.
In 1981, Arnold Bloch left the firm, and Papa became the senior partner of Arnold Bloch Leibler. As successful as Papa had been, Arnold's departure represented a huge challenge, and that challenge gave Papa the opportunity to apply another one of the skills that make him unique, his ability to lead and to bring about the best in those around him. Papa took a group of young partners under his wing, and with that leadership, he not only met the challenge of Arnold's departure, but he enabled the firm to grow and thrive.
Somehow with Papa, one monumental challenge is not enough, so Papa began another chapter in his life's work, a chapter that continues to this very day.
In 1980, Papa was elected to the State Zionist Council of Victoria, formalizing his Zionist passion that originated in his Bnei Akiva youth activities. Papa's leadership of the Zionist movement in Australia, and subsequently in the international arena, has made an incredible contribution to the Jewish people and to Australia, and it likely played a secret but powerful role in motivating the Aliyah of my family.
Papa put Zionism and the centrality of Israel in Jewish life at the top of the agenda of the Australian Jewish community. Many people still recall Papa's inspiring and rousing speeches at the annual communal Yom HaAtzmaut celebrations. Nenny often recalls Papa's euphoric mood on returning from trips to Israel.
Our faith in a strong Israel, which will be a beacon of light to all the nations.
Papa was determined to make sure that the miracle of modern-day Israel, which he likened in his bar mitzvah speech to a phoenix rising from the ashes, would be felt in full force as far away as Australia.
In 1984, Papa took on the leadership of the Zionist Federation of Australia. The newspapers recognised this event as being important. Papa's quote is a perfect example of the strength and the vision he brought to his leadership positions. How we can demonstrate dignity, strength, vitality, and a sense of direction will determine the extent to which we are taken seriously.
Papa transformed the ZFA into the leading representative organization for the Jewish community in relation to Israel. It was in this role that Papa started building relationships with Australian and Israeli politicians on both sides of the political spectrum, from backbenchers to senior ministers, to even the Prime Minister. In fact, Papa has known every Israeli Prime Minister since Menachem Begin, and every Australian Prime Minister since Malcolm Fraser.
Well, Mark, you can sure draw a crowd. Half the cabinet, most of the Liberal Party.
Papa's key partner in that role was Nenny. Many of those bonds with politicians and leaders were forged or cemented with the sparkle of Nenny's wit, personality and guidance, whether around the Shabbat table, at a cocktail party in Canberra, or in strategising behind the scenes.
Papa's hard work and dedication in support of Israel and Jewish causes was really amazing.
Sam Lipsky, in an editorial in the Jewish News, praised Papa's work on behalf of the Jewish community and referred to Papa as a model of public and private diplomacy. There is no question that Papa's integrity, together with Nenny's charm and warmth, and Papa's passionate advocacy and love for Israel, all combined to draw many senior Australian politicians, particularly Bill Hayden, Paul Keating and John Howard, into the circle of Israel's greatest friends.
In 1987, Papa was awarded an AO and became an officer in the General Division of the Order of Australia, in recognition of his service to the Australian community, in particular the Jewish community, and he received his honour from the Queen.
In 1975, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution which called Zionism a form of racism and discrimination. It took 16 years for that resolution to be repealed. Papa devised a campaign that led to Australia leading the world by being the first country to pass a resolution in Parliament calling for the 1975 resolution to be repealed. In a book called To Right a Wrong, which was written about the effort to get that resolution repealed, the author Yochanan Manor said, "It could not have happened without the outstanding personal and profound involvement of Mark Leibler. Mark Leibler played a key role. He deserved special tribute not only for his skills in the art of public and private diplomacy, for his perseverance and astuteness, but even more so, for the wisdom and daring he exhibited throughout the process."
This is just one example of many of Papa's achievements that had far-reaching consequences in Australia and throughout the world. Papa is also responsible for
ensuring that Australians who make Aliyah don't lose their Australian citizenship, having United Israel Appeal formally recognised in Australia's tax laws, so donations in Australia to UIA can be tax deductible, and
ensuring the continued existence and strength of the Zionist youth movements in Australia. It was Papa who secured the ongoing participation of Shlichim in Australia, even when such programs were being abandoned elsewhere for lack of funds. It was Papa who introduced the Zionist seminar program into Australia's Jewish day schools.
These achievements illustrate Papa's strong sense of Jewish and Zionist values, as well as universal justice. Another great example can be seen in the events that occurred many years ago after one of Alana's inter-school debates. The debate took place at a prominent Anglican church school in Melbourne, and Papa was there to see Alana perform.
The classroom in which the debate was held still had that day's lesson written up on the blackboard, a lesson which had taught those children that Jews were the people responsible for the death of Jesus. It was clear that through its curriculum, the school was institutionalizing prejudice against Jews.
Papa immediately wrote to the school authorities and the Anglican Archbishop and took them to task. The correspondence continued over a period of weeks, and Papa refused to let it go until the episode had arrived at a positive conclusion. That exchange was a primary catalyst for the creation of the Council of Christians and Jews, an organisation for the promotion of interfaith dialogue. Even more importantly, that exchange resulted in significant changes to the syllabus in the Christian school system.
Honestly, Papa's achievements as a lawyer and a leader are astounding, even daunting. But as Papa's grandchildren, we get to be inspired rather than overwhelmed, because we see it all through the prism of Papa as a person with a huge heart, with inexhaustible drive and passion, with incomparable judgment and wisdom. A Papa for whom there is simply nothing more important than his family.
A big part of Nenny and Papa's life and of their story from 1993 right up to today are all the events and smachot and developments and growth in their family. Knei Nahora Tututu Pupupu, the next 20 years is a tale of simcha upon simcha, with Papa always the keenest participant. Weddings of Simon and Jonathan, Elisheva and Anthony, Alan and Gerard, and Andy and Jeremy.
When did he grow to be so tall?
Wasn't it yesterday
when they were small? Now they've grown, how the moments have flown.
The birth of Ari, Mishi, Yair, Josh, Yehuda, Tali, Gabe, Hanan, Ella, Benji, Ayelet, Nadav, Ezra and Noah, Barmies of Ari, Mishi, Tali, Yair, Hoda and Josh, and of course, we all know that Papa is especially proud of those of us living in Israel, at the center of the Jewish world, that has been so central to Papa's communal work.
In 1996, Nenny and Papa celebrated their 30th wedding anniversary, but they didn't celebrate it alone. Their children organised a surprise black tie party at Leona. Anthony and Sheva made a surprise trip from New York to be in Australia for the evening.
I spoke to you this morning.
The invitation read, "It's been 30 years for Rosanna and Mark since that day in 1966 when their love first sparked. Their children are thrilled and delighted to announce the celebration to which you're invited. Whisper the word around the streets, but with Rosanna and Mark, please be discreet. Be careful in what you do and say, and wary in what you do, for the unsuspecting couple does not have a clue." It was also an opportunity for Bubby to speak about Papa and Nenny.
You have given me the greatest nachas. You have implemented and excelled in all that you have learned in the homes of your respective parents. Jewish values, hospitality, charity, and above all, kibbut av v'em.
Nenny has been a constant inspiration and support for Papa, not to mention for all of us. Throughout all of these events, Nenny and Papa have a very special relationship, a partnership that has achieved so much.
It is best summed up in Papa's own words, spoken at Simon and Jonathan's wedding. She is the powerhouse of our family, the source of both our strength
and of whatever achievements may stand to our joint credit. When a problem arises, it is invariably to Rosanna that I and our children turn to for guidance. And I want to tell you that a better source of wise counsel one couldn't ask for. But much more than this, Rosanna is the centre of gravity around which we all rotate. She sets the priorities, she galvanises us all to action, and I would like to tell you she provides all the care, love and attention that we could possibly ask for. Rosanna's personality is a balanced blend of caring warmth, charm and personal electricity which literally lights up our home and makes it a wonderful place to be.
Though just because there was a lot happening on the family front did not for a moment mean that things were slowing down, professionally or communally.
In 1994, there was a gala dinner recognising Papa's 10 years of leadership of the Zionist Federation of Australia. That dinner was attended by Prime Minister Paul Keating, Israeli Ambassador Yehuda Avner, and nearly half of Cabinet.
Tell you what an effective president you have really been. When I first came to Australia more than a year ago, I began to wonder what my job was.
That, however, did not for a moment mean that Papa's service to the Jewish people and the State of Israel was coming to an end. He continued, and in fact, stepped up his participation in the Zionist movement on the international stage with prominent board positions at the Jewish Agency and as federal president of UIA. In 2005, Papa was appointed chairman of the World Board of Trustees of Keren HaYesod UIA, a position which he held for 4 years.
And in 2011, Papa was awarded the Israel Goldstein Prize for distinguished leadership contribution to the State of Israel. In Papa's honor, there was a special dinner in Jerusalem with President Shimon Peres. It was a very special experience for me, both inspiring and humbling, to see Papa share the stage with the President of Israel and to see the heartfelt sincerity with which Shimon Peres talked about my grandfather for all that he has done for Israel and for the Jewish people. Papa, I'm so incredibly proud of you.
Throughout his life, Papa's innate sense of justice has driven him to give back to his community and his people. That process began with contributions that reflected his strong Jewish identity and his passion for Israel. However, as the years passed, and he was inspired in particular by his friendship with the late Ron Caston, Papa's sense of justice led him to take up the cause of Australia's Aboriginal people.
During these years, Papa became increasingly involved in contributions to the welfare of Australia's Indigenous community, holding positions as co-chair of Reconciliation Australia and later of the expert panel on constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians. In January 2012, Papa presented the report of the expert panel on constitutional recognition of Australia's Indigenous peoples to Prime Minister Julia Gillard.
I am so proud that Papa is so passionate about and committed to helping others. I am so proud of the way he is driven to apply his talents to advocate for change and to show real leadership for Indigenous people, and not for personal gain, but simply because it's the right thing to do.
All the while, Papa's professional standing continued to grow. When Arnold Bloch Leibler celebrated his 50th anniversary in 2003, the then Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, said about him, "I have known Mark Leibler for more than 20 years. I don't think in my life I have met a person with a keener intellect, a sharper sense of advocacy for the causes in which he believes, and also a greater capacity to generously see another point of view."
There is perhaps no greater communal recognition of Papa's achievements than the award that was bestowed on him in 2005. In that year, he became Mark Leibler AC, when he was appointed a companion in the Order of Australia, in recognition of his service to business, to the law, to the Jewish community internationally and in Australia, and to the reconciliation and the promotion of understanding between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians.
An AC is the highest honour within the Order of Australia, and is awarded for eminent achievement and merit of the highest degree in service to Australia or to humanity at large. It is the only time an award at that level has been given for services that include services to the Jewish community.
An AC is an Australian equivalent of a knighthood. That basically means if that our family lived in England, we would have to call you Sir Papa and Lady Nanny.
At the time, I wrote a poem as a gift to Papa, and Papa had it framed, and it still sits in his study. As simple as it may be, it was incredibly sophisticated for a 9-year-old, and has a certain bluntness about it, which is its own first truth. I woke up this morning and looked at the age, and saw Papa's picture on the inside front page. Papa's the best lawyer the country's ever seen, and today he got an award from the Queen. Mark starts with M, Papa starts with P, but now his full name is Mark Leibler AC. This poem comes from my heart, and all of it is true, All that I have left to say is, Papa, I love you.
After ABL's recent 60th anniversary celebration, Noel Pearson, the great Indigenous leader, wrote to the partners of ABL. This great firm and its 60th anniversary is a testament to Mark. But the law was not what I learned from Mark and my time at ABL. I learned about power and leadership of a people. This was my great learning. How a good man can bend power to do good for his people and his country. If I didn't learn from all that Mark had to teach, I at least came to see up close his example of principled, powerful leadership. I could not have witnessed a more accomplished practitioner of these arts than Mark. Mine was indeed an articled clerkship in power and leadership. Noel Pearson couldn't have summed up my feelings any better. Dad, we know that your story continues to grow every day. And given that 70 is the new 50, we can't wait to celebrate with you all of your achievements that are yet to come.
It is my pleasure to wish my Papa happy birthday. Nanny and Papa are not just grandparents, they are also our friends. We always have so much fun when all our family gets together, and I hope we keep having fun for a long time.
Help me share my load from the dark and lovely street to the bright side of the road. And into this life we're born. Baby, sometimes we don't know why. And time seems to go by so fast. In the twinkling of an eye, let's enjoy it while we can.
Let's enjoy it while we can.
Help me share my load.
Help me share my load.
From the dark and lonely street to the bright side of the road. Cricket! side of the street.
On the dark end of the street.
To the bright side of the road.
To the bright side of the road.
Little darling, go on low.
On the bright side of the road.
Come on, tell me. On the dark end of the street.
On the dark end of the street.
Happy birthday, Papa.
To the bright side of the road.
I love you, Papa.
On the bright side of